Interesting interview here on Sky Sports with Peter Fury. He was talking about the Anthony Joshua Kubrat Pulev fight, which most people expect to happen sometime in 2020 because Kubrat Pulev is Anthony Joshua's IBF mandatory, and the IBF tend to be very forceful when it comes to mandatories. So, I'm going to quote Peter Fury here. He says, Kubrat Pulev is a very good boxer. He learned a lot from the Klitschko fight where he got himself chinned. He's more defensive and he's got a very, very good jab. He's tough, but he doesn't hold a lot of power. He's a force to be reckoned with and he won't be easy. It's a good fight. Anything can happen at this level of fights. He's a very patient man, Pulev. He doesn't have knockout power, but he's a good boxer and he's very wise in that ring. He just seems to do enough and control it. I think he can take, and now he's talking about Joshua here, I think he can take more risks because Pulev doesn't hold the same amount of power, but you can't make a mistake because all these heavyweights can hit. I think it's going to be an intriguing fight. I think Joshua will look even better in this one. It goes on to say that his son, Huey, is available to spar anybody. So if it helps them out, of course he would. And I guess he's talking about bringing in maybe Huey Fury as sparring for AJ. Okay, I missed this bit here. He says, I expect AJ to let the ropes go and relax more because the amount of pressure is not there now. Let's look at Ruiz as his bogeyman. He's come through that now mentally and physically, and he will have grown from it. All right, so those are the words of Peter Fury. The Kubrat Pulev fight is more intriguing now after AJ lost to Ruiz. Because I do feel as though the pre-Ruiz version of AJ would have dealt with Pulev more decisively than the post-Ruiz version of AJ. The pre-Ruiz version of AJ was a powerhouse, a guy who could box and would box at times, but ultimately he was trying to land big, heavy shots and hurt you. Take it to the inside, be physically rough with you, and just really try and impose his size and strength. That's what AJ was about in a lot of his fights. That's how he beat Klitschko at the end of the day, by imposing himself on Klitschko. So that version of AJ, the one who fought Klitschko, I could see him stopping Kubrat Pulev. Might be a bit fiddly early on with Pulev having a very good jab, and he controls range very well, Kubrat Pulev. He moves in and out. He's economical with his punches. He's added a clinching game to his arsenal ever since he lost to Vladimir Klitschko. But this post-Ruiz version of AJ, he wasn't very aggressive against Ruiz in the rematch. We can understand that because the guy had knocked him out. There was a hell of a lot of mental demons to overcome, as well as the pressure of the fans and the occasion and all that kind of stuff. So maybe it was just not a one-off, but against that particular opponent for that particular night, needed to get his belts back, box cautious. Perhaps he'll be far more aggressive against Kubrat Pulev. It remains to be seen. But I suspect he won't be as aggressive as the old AJ. And for that reason, I think Pulev has probably got a better chance now with this version of AJ than he did with the older version of AJ. Because I think this version of AJ is going to be trying to box a little bit more. And that will play into Kubrat Pulev's hands because Kubrat Pulev is a good boxer. As I say, controls range very well. He's got an excellent jab. Very, very solid jab, by the way. I've seen Kubrat Pulev hurt people with his jab. Hurt them to the head and hurt them to the body. In fact, he hurt Vladimir Klitschko in the opening seconds of their fight with a jab. So Pulev's jab is no joke. And he often controls fights with it. He's also, as Peter Fury said, a very patient fighter. He's not worried about trying to excite the crowd or anything like that. I mean, if you think that AJ versus Ruiz was boring, I mean, go and have a look at Pulev versus Huey Fury. Because AJ versus Ruiz 2, I'm talking about obviously, made, Pulev versus Huey Fury, should I say, made AJ Ruiz 2 look like the Thriller in Manila. All right? Pulev does not give a damn about making a fight look dull and boring, very low volume. He's good at that. He wins fights that way. So, yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting fight, AJ versus Pulev, if that's what we get next. Simply to see how AJ behaves post-Ruiz. You know, those 2 fights with Ruiz might have completely changed him as a fighter and sent him on a different path in terms of his development. So we'll see. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Does Kubrat Pulev have any chance here? I mean, there could even be a chance that Pulev might kind of outbox AJ a little bit in the early rounds, fiddle him around a little bit, frustrate AJ, and then AJ will have to go to plan B and say, you know what, I'm going to have to take it to this guy. Because he's very, much a veteran. He's physically strong as well, Pulev. That's another thing I forgot to mention. He's a physically strong guy. This new version of AJ, Rob McCracken said that he would like AJ to stay around this weight. 237, maybe up to 240. He wants him to stay in that weight range. Kubrat Pulev is like a 250-pound man. And that's natural. Pulev is not a guy who has to pump a load of weights and, lift dumbbells and chest press. You don't have to do all that to be as big as he is. Kubrat Pulev is a naturally big man. And he's very physically strong. He might not be a massive puncher, but he's very physically strong. So, that's going to be interesting as well in terms of how Anthony Joshua can cope with Kubrat Pulev on the inside. Will he be as strong as he was when he had all that muscle on him? You would have to, assume not. So, yeah, it will be interesting. Is it the #1 fight that I'd like to see Anthony Joshua in? Of course not. But it's a mandatory. And mandatories, particularly when it comes to the IBF, you got to get him out of the way. Could be a potential banana skin for AJ. We'll see. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. It's happening. I'm out.